reliability assessments. Good tool, but I found them to be greatly misused, misunderstood, and have at least 3 major flaws in there that can cause you to careen down a wrong path. This week I spent some time in, I call them a chat room, but discussion group online regarding assessments. I think maybe it's the first of the year and people are talking about reliability assessments and the different components and just a conversation around that. I've also gotten a couple questions in the past on reliability assessments, and I didn't respond with a video. But today I'm a little more energized about the topic, so hopefully this will fit for you and maybe set you on a good path. Maybe just take advantage of 34 years of experience on my side and see where you want to go after this video. Hey folks, pros of reliability assessments. Hey, it gets you to know the 20, 30, 40 tools that are out there, you know, planning and scheduling, PMs, PDMs, work execution, lubrication, you know, sponsorship, you know, executive sponsorship, all those things are detailed in these assessments, and you can have somebody come in and tell you where you are on each one of those. Great stuff. You know, the success of these best practices and these assessments is well known, well documented. There's no secrets out there. You could easily find, you know, whatever you want on how to start a PDM program. What are the critical components? That's not hard to find. You can get a subject matter expert on your site with great experience, you know, that you can ask questions and talk about some pitfalls. So, great stuff. It forces you to make progress. You know, if you have a score from an assessment, say that score is a, you know, 80 and perfect is, you know, 200, you know, you make progress. You can see progress. You can feel progress. And you can get some recognition for that progress that you're making. Also, it can help you if you're stuck. If your organization's stuck, we're not making progress, we don't understand, you bring in an outside assessment, and they can maybe see a tool or practice that you could gain from. Hey, great stuff on the pro side of assessment. But buyer beware. I have found 3 major flaws with reliability assessments. Hey folks, this is Joe Kuhn of Lean Driven Reliability, bridging the gap between best practices that you know you should be doing, just can't figure out how to get it done in your culture. Need some help, maybe some pointers from old Joe here. Okay, first fatal flaw I see is reliability assessments do not measure the breadth of the deployment of a tool. You know, you could have, believe me, I've got a lot of experience with this. You could have great planning in one department of your site. Great planning, let's say in the hot mill, great planning. And then you may have great OEE, great problem solving that happens in the finishing department, okay? And all you do is lead the auditor to those practices. So, hey, if they're assessing planning, you go to the hot mill. They're accessing OEE, you go to finishing. And you just take them on this designed path through your plant to up your score. You know, it's not that hard. You know, remember what the auditor is doing, and this has been 100% of my experience, what the auditor is doing is trying to assess your knowledge of the tool. It's your job to cascade that through every department in every area. It's your job. So if you show them that you know how to conduct an effective planning meeting in one area and it's just perfect, it's on you to cascade that to other areas. So it does not measure widespread use of a tool. Also, very limited, almost most consultants, it's doing an assessment, there's no mention of results. So you're just saying, do you know how to use the tool? It's not results driven. Now, some of these assessments, I've seen them, that they may have 2 or 3 factors that you rate based on results. They're tracking some KPI. But if you got 100 things you're tracking and only 2 or 3 of them are results, it doesn't move the needle very much in your score. It's a very small piece of your overall score is how effective are your tools in the workplace, driving change. You know, and also there's no measure of whether this is the top waste in your plant. You know, hey, you put in planning and scheduling, you may be doing great with planning and scheduling, and you come in and you get this assessment that says you're doing great. So you're focused maybe on not the right priorities for your plant. It's just, hey, put in these 30 tools. What order do you put them in? Doesn't say. You're trying to manage the score, okay? You're trying to manage the score, not based on a priority of what's important in your plant. That's fatal flaw number one. It doesn't measure the breadth of the deployment of your tool. It just says you know how to do them, each facet. Hopefully that makes sense. You know, number two, fatal flaw. Reliability assessments promote Moore's Law. Okay, and by Moore's Law is the more tools you use, the better off you are. And higher scores come from use of more tools. So say there's 30 factors you're weighting here. You get more points the more factors that you're deploying, regardless of their impact and their priority, regardless, okay? So here's a question for you. Is it better to have 4 tools that you use and you do them very well and you have a high impact from those? Is it better just to have 4 or to do 10 and get a high score? And get, you know, maybe, you know, you get on a 0 to 10 score, you get, you know, maybe 7 or 8 on 4 of them. Is it better to do that or have maybe a 6 or 5 on 10 of them? Well, hey folks, 4 tools that are strategically deployed based on the waste that is seen in your plant will greatly provide better results than just getting a score by deploying more and more and more tools. Hopefully that makes sense. You want to focus your tools based on the waste in your plant, and it's better to go deep and strong than it is to do them all. But the reliability assessment rewards for breadth of tool deployment. Make sense? Okay. So, hey, an example. Hey, doing lubrication well, doing kitting and staging well. If you do, hey, if you say, my plant, we're going to do these things extremely well. We're going to kill these things. And that's based on observation. That's based on waste at your plant. You know, we have all these lubrication failures. Hey, you're better off focusing on lubrication and kitting and staging for perhaps, you know, wrench time. You know, doing all the best practices, everything in the assessment long-term, still the goal. I'm not saying, you know, pick 4 and stop. I'm just saying there's an order that you need to go in and a depth that you need to go in for your plant to derive results now. Why do you want results now? Folks, sponsorship, engagement. You come out and you'd say, hey, I've got a 2-year plan to start getting results and I need heavy investment for that. The plant manager is going to throw you out of the office. Plant managers judge based on quarter-over-quarter improvement. You can't give me a plan that's going to take 2 years and ask for $1 million to have some consultants come in to develop a plan, to train some people, to get the equipment in maintainable shape. Spend $1 million and, you know, I think we're going to start moving this thing in 2 to 3 years as long as you sustain your sponsorship. Well, hey, question for you. When was the last time you saw sustained sponsorship for 3 years? It doesn't happen anymore. It used to happen. And that's why a lot of consultants teach this method, is it works. It works. It's how I learned, 25 years ago. Fatal flaw number 3. Assessments do not measure results. I hinted at this earlier, but if they do measure results, it's a small fraction of the questions that they're using in the assessment are results driven. So they 90-95% of your audit score is not based on results. So this is a huge deal in my book, folks. Every reliability tool is designed to take out waste. I've talked about this dozens of times. Every one of them is designed to take out waste. But we don't measure the waste. We say, start deploying tools. Folks, that's insane. That is an insane approach. Looking back on it, looking back at my career and how I learned, you'd say hey, use this tool, use this tool, use this tool, get this best practices, and the waste should go away. Why not know the waste up front and then apply the tool to the waste that makes sense in your plant and get the results fast and get the enthusiasm and get the sponsorship? Here's an example. A planned job. You have 8 hours on this job, 3 mechanics are assigned to it. There's good, you look at that, the assessor looks at it and says, hey, good steps, good detail of materials, hey, check mark, good planned job. You go to the next planning meeting and you see that job is talked about, it's discussed, and it's scheduled 2 weeks out. Oh, check mark, okay. Planned and scheduled. These guys got this. Good planning meeting, good job by the planner. Next day you go out and you say, hey, they kitted that job. Oh my gosh, they kitted the job. The kid looks good. Check mark, okay. Auditor leaves, gives you a 10 out of 10 for planning, scheduling, and kitting. Okay, well done, right? But if you happen to come back 2 weeks later and do an observation of that job being executed, you notice there's 10% wrench time. One of the mechanics was pulled off for emergency work for the whole shift, so they were down to 2 people. Only 5 of the 8 steps in the PM were completed because the outage was cut short. Hey, maintenance has said this outage takes 12 hours, but for the last 2 years, we've been doing this outage in 8 because that's all production could stand. So we don't do the whole PM. We cut it short. Everybody's frustrated. We forget we don't grease things. We don't adjust things. We don't look at certain facets of the PM. And this happens every single time this job is done. So how do you feel now about your planning, scheduling, and kitting? Yeah, it's pretty poor. It's pretty poor. It's a shell. It's a shell of a reliability program because you're not executing it. And executing it is everything, right? Why plan and schedule a job you're not going to do right, Massive waste can exist in your organization. Massive, just like this example. And your scores being high. Huge, huge issue. This was an issue at my plant. And I'll give that example in a second. This is why many of you are feeling frustrated and stuck. You get these high scores and boy, we're not making progress. Is this as good as it gets? I remember having that feeling back in the early 2000s. Now, to be fair, like I said, some of the assessments I've seen are starting to salt in some output measures like, is your R&M cost going down, is your OEE going up? Where's your planned work at versus your unplanned work, but it's an insignificant portion of your outage. It doesn't really move the needle. You could still get a 95% in your audit and have these numbers be horrible. Okay, another example, I joined a team a few years back, and it received, this before I came, it received the second highest assessment, externally verified assessment for reliability. Okay, I won't say who the company was. Second highest they've ever given. Really high up, okay? Don't want to say the number. Within a month of me arriving, I had the entire lead team, my entire lead team, giving us an F rating, F for failing, A, B, C, D, F. So we got the external assessment, second highest rating ever given. Within a month, I had the whole organization saying, we're horrible, okay? Now, hey, we had a great foundation. A lot of training took place. We had a lot of systems in place, but the waste was not coming out of the organization. We were going through all the motions, all the steps, but still failing. What did I do differently? It's not that I'm smarter than the average person. I added go and see. Go into the shop floor and assessing the waste on the shop floor. So instead of evaluating the PM, say we got 100 PMs done last week, let's go out and audit some of the PMs and see if we got them done. Let's look at the equipment, and does the equipment look like it's taken care of? Let's talk to the mechanic and see how they feel about the equipment. And notice problems, link failures with PMs, all those things, out of the office things. Bottom line, I established go and see in the organization, and we went from the second highest score to a failing grade. It's that simple, folks. A fundamental assumption that every assessment makes is if you apply the best practices, waste will come out. That's wrong. That's wrong. That's wrong. Okay? You know, assessments will show tools that you're not using. It can assess the gaps in your understanding of the tools, but it does not show the waste in your plant. You know, another question I've gotten before was, you know, is there bias in audits? Well, absolutely, there's bias in audits. Anytime you're dealing with human beings, you got bias. But hey, I'll be honest. My personal experience is I've had very minimal bias by the auditor, the person that comes into your plant. They want to make the customer happy. And, you know, if they make the customer happy, educate them and see the score moving, they may get a long-term contract to help them for their 2, 3, 5, 10, 20-year journey. You know, reliability journeys never end. So, you know, I just don't see the bias in them. You can have some concerns if you have the same auditor for 3, 4, 5, you know, audits in a row. There are some pros and cons of having the same person. A pro would be, you know, you can focus on the gaps faster. There's not this learning curve of what's your plant, what do you do, what are your pitfalls. They know your journey, and they know what you're good at and what you're weak at. So, that, you know, that's a big pro. A con, they could come in with some preconceived scores. And, you know, and then, you know, unfortunately, what it ends up being, too often, these reliability assessments tend to be just about the score. Not the results coming out, the score, okay? So I don't really see a big problem with bias in the auditor. You know, I actually see a much bigger bias with you at the plant. You know, you want to look good. You know, you want a high score, so you want to, you know, it's like somebody coming over your house at Christmas Day. You clean everything where all the visitors are going to come over. You clean those areas and you stuff things in the closet, you stuff things in the attic, and you stuff things in the basement. You want to look good, okay? You have some fear of embarrassment. Hey, you've been working on this reliability improvement for, you know, the last 2 years. You want to look good. It's in your performance expectations. You want to look good. Follow the money, folks. Follow the money. My score went from 600 to 750. Hey, I may get more money out of that. My organization may get more money. I may get, you know, be able to hire more people. A lot of good things come from higher assessments. Also, this is kind of a dirty little secret. You know, high scores in a reliability assessment, if you're a maintenance manager and reliability is owned by you incorrectly, it's owned by operations. But as a maintenance manager, if I get a high reliability assessment, it really shifts the blame of poor results to somebody else. It shifts it to operations because, hey, I'm doing everything right. Look at my score. I got a 95 out of 100 score. We are good. This is as good as it gets. I and my organization are doing great. Don't pay attention to results. That's somebody else's issue. That's the concerns I see with bias in these assessments. You know, so let's see. So whose fault is the misuse? You know, that's we're always looking to blame, and I don't know why I called it that, but whose fault is this misuse? The plant's? Well, you're the one asking for the assessments. Consultants are merely supplying that tool for you. Consultants, this is exactly how consultants learned. So they're teaching what they know. You know, they learned this in 1990, 1995. This worked at their plant. You know, you got this 2-year journey, you got this bow wave of spending, you got a 20-year journey. This is how it's done. Okay. So, hey, one of the biggest concerns I've got that forces a misuse is, you know, it's a safe thing to do. You know, it's not confrontational. You come in, you sit in the conference room, you interview a few people, you go to a couple meetings, here's your assessment, okay? It's not on the floor, you know? It's fast, it's 1 to 2 days, not very expensive. Come in, get this score. You know, it's a best practice from 1990. You know, again, misuse of the assumption that if you deploy more best practices, your waste is going to come out. That's the error, folks. Okay, my recommendation, okay? 2 facts. You must understand these 2 facts. Fact number 1, and I can't stress this enough, every reliability tool, every best practice that you're trying to implement is trying to reduce waste. It's trying to reduce waste, okay? I don't need to sell you on that anymore. rewind that. Everything you're doing in reliability maintenance is trying to reduce waste in your organization. Fact number 2, assessments are good, but they're grossly misunderstood and misused, okay? My recommendation, hey folks, this reminds me of a Seinfeld TV show episode. My recommendation is you need to do the opposite of an assessment. Do the opposite. You got to go see your waste first, then apply the right tool like a surgeon. So see your waste firsthand in your organization, know what it is, apply the tool to the waste. Don't apply the tool and hope the waste goes away. See the waste first, okay? Nobody's saying this but me, folks. Most preach the standard, hey, we'll deploy all these best practices, have your score go up, it'll take you 2 or 3 years. Put some heavy investment in there, and you'll start to see some positive results in 2, 3, maybe 4 years, as long as you got sustained sponsorship. In 20 years, you'll be as good as any company out there. It works. As a plant manager, that is a horrible plan. That is a plan that's dead on arrival. I have judged by, from personal experience, you're judged by quarter over quarter, sometimes month over month improvement. You can't give a 2 3 year plan is a horrible plan. Save your breath. How do you see current state? How do you see the waste? Chalk circle observation. You guys know that. That's an observation of at least 4 to 8 hours in duration. Absolutely minimum. It's really 8 hours. I've lowered it to 4. When was the last time you as a leader went out and saw waste that in a critical area, say it's the hot mill, exit end equipment? When was the last time you stood there for 4 hours? When was the last time you stood there for 8 hours, for multiple days? If it's the most critical area in your plant, you're not seeing reality, huge mistake. How to get top leadership on board with a waste focus? That's a great question. I like shock and awe. A facilitated lead team, 1 to 2 week Kaizen, where you're going out and observing. You get trained on how to see waste. You go out with a coach and see waste, okay? You report back, you experience the waste firsthand on the shop floor with doing a PM, watching a PM be executed, watching a job be executed, watching a critical asset run. It's amazing the shock and awe. I have done this dozens of times. Every single time the lead team is shocked at what they see. I've done most of the time at a fairly large plant. You get this done in a week. May take a little bit longer depending on your facility, but that is by far my preferred method, shock and awe. Okay, 100% of the time they're shocked. Okay, more subtle than that. Hey folks, I make a lot of videos, 124 of them out there now. Send them my videos. Start to, sometimes people have to hear things 7, 8, 10, 20 times. Start sending my videos. What do you think of this? This may be an issue for us. Let's talk about this. And that's why I send these videos, so you can forward them on. Second thing is, hey, I mentioned this in my last video, is, hey, buy my book for your lead team members and then set up a book club. Where every Thursday you meet in your lead team meeting, you talk about 2 chapters. Everybody read 2 chapters. Let's talk about 2 chapters and how they apply to our plan. And my book, it walks you through the first 30 days of an intervention. Not trying to sell new books, but it's all laid out there how you can have a waste focus first and then apply the right tool. Nobody's teaching that but me that I know of. It's really that simple, folks. You start with a waste focus, and once you know the waste, your actions that you need to take will become obvious, okay? My book is $14.99 on Amazon, link below. I have a do-it-yourself reliability document on my website. It's for free. Just go get it, and it's for free. It tells you what I would do at your facility. You got all my videos, and if you need an experienced guide, I promise you it's going to shave years off your deployment. If it's me or somebody else, an experienced guide will help you. So back to one of the questions I had in this video, whose fault is the fact that we're misusing reliability assessments? Whose fault is that? It's yours. You now know better. It's your fault. Hey folks, begin your journey. This is Joe from Lean Driven Reliability. This isn't that hard. There's some new approaches out there, that I'm pushing around seeing your waste first. Accelerates your journey dramatically. It's not that hard. If I can help you out in any way, send me a comment, send me an email. We can set up a phone call. All of this, no pressure. I am trying to communicate an alternative to the reliability deployment that people like me learned. Next generation, hey, we can do this a lot better, a lot smarter. This is Joe out.